we knew something like that is going to come, because after what's happened, what is so-called rebels and jihadists, and I call them criminals, you know, after what's happened to them, they have lost quite large areas in Damascus. They were initially 6 areas, and they lost all these 6 areas, and the last one was Idlib, of course. So they were planning, and they have to do something to get the reaction again of the international community.
Every so-called journalist from the mainstream media blaming this directly on the government of Bashar al-Assad. So what you just said, they would not even recognize. And in fact, repeatedly they seem to be asking analysts and politicians on their various news programs across the corporate media about the need for, or implying, we need military intervention. Why don't you think it was Bashar al-Assad that ordered the killing of all those women and children and men in Hula?
Let's talk about Al-Hula technically. The Syrian army had 5 checkpoints outside Al-Hula, outside the town. Al-Hula is controlled by gunmen. And there were an attack on the checkpoints, on 1 or 2 of the checkpoints, which retaliated normally, and that's happened every night. But the Syrian army, no Syrian security has entered the Al-Hula. And they came out with a massacre like this. I saw on the footage from Al-Hula, one of the young boys who was 6-7 years old, he has the supporter banner on his wrist. And the families were knowing.
Support banner on his wrist.
This is the government supporters, or what we call, like us, call for. We are supporters, but we call for regime reform, not a regime change.
So the dead 6-year-old child in the footage had a wristband against in effect against the so-called Syrian Free Army and Syrian National Congress.
Exactly,
Council.
which use as the red flag, not the green flag. So that's one of the boys. I mean, it was very hard, not for me and for my family. My wife couldn't stop crying all night, because we knew this is it took a turn now where these criminals, they cannot, I mean, there's nothing to stop them. They could kill children, women, massacres, just to take just to get attention from some media. I mean, if you leave all the incitement and the fabrication on the media for the last 14 months, on some of the medias, at the moment, there is no one want to discuss even what's happened in Al-Hula. United Nations said most of these dead bodies, or the children, the women, they have been shot in close range, and we could see that
by these Assad brigades, as the corporate media is.
Yes, but how
saying, they have a name for them.
Shabih, they call. By the way, they call me Shabih because everybody talk logically and want a dialogue and want a political process. He's a Shabih. So that's
What about the journalists on the ground? What do you think about what they are saying? I mean, just as they did actually in Homs. Obviously, Marie Colvin, a journalist that I was acquainted with, who died there. All these different journalists, all coming out with this onslaught of. They're all award-winning journalists, many of them, all saying, no, this is all down to Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah, but there were no journalists in Al-Hula. This was what you call it, government announcement against the opposition who's outside. Who they belong to United States, they belong to Qatar, they belong to Saudi, because this is where the finance is coming from. So they have to say what those countries ask them to say. But Al-Hula, it was absolutely a complete turn. I've been talking to some, I've been calling members of my family in Syria, and the people had enough. They're calling on President Bashar, please do something now, because he is trying his best not to involve what the West called collateral damages, you know, civilians, and he is holding the army to a point, not to have a full scale. But the people had enough.
So you're saying Bashar al-Assad is holding the army back, and the army should go in much stronger to take out the foreign elements behind the struggle against his government?
Well, yes, this elements, they have arms, they kill, they have I mean, you know, the jihadists, what their motive is, to kill or die and to go to heaven. That's what their motive is. So, and by the way, Al-Hula, what the motive of Syrian government to carry out atrocities like this? There's no motive. To turn the international community against them?
On that cui bono question, some people say, oh, because Bashar al-Assad is so out of control, he doesn't even realize what he's doing. They are mad, and they show those emails that were leaked about from him and his wife, and say, basically, this is a crazy regime, and it's, I don't know, presumably in their heads they compare it with the Nazis, they can murder children and so on. That's their answer to the who benefits cui bono question.
Yes, but let me say something here. President Bashar Assad or the government in Syria, they will not be there now after 14 and 15 or 15 months with all this incitement and fabrication and attack by at least 60, 70 countries, you know, without the support of the Syrian people. There is a majority of Syrian people who support President Bashar Assad and support his government. Okay, we all Syrians, we want to reform. There's no one doesn't want to reform. We want to take the country to a better stages. We want to see Syria as the best country in the Middle East, but it takes time. There is a hard decision to make, but President Bashar Assad is there because of the support of more than 60 people, more than 60% of the population.
Well, I mean, you say that it has that support. The United States, which is obviously backing publicly, basically, the people who want to destroy Bashar al-Assad's government, has formed under the Obama administration on stopping governments, on deposing governments that have the support of their people in Honduras and of course in Haiti. How can you be so confident that with the onslaught of weapons from Saudi Arabia, Qatar and so on, they can't destroy your beloved country?
They are pushing for civil war or sectarian war, and we said many times it's not going to be a civil war in Syria because of one reason, and
but
that's
what they're spilling over to Lebanon now.
Yes, I understand, but there is one point. There is rebels, jihadis, people fighters being sent from Libya and Tunisia, which has nothing to do with them, on one side, and there is the supporters of the government who they are under law and orders. The supporters of the government, which they are the majority, I believe, they are not going to pick up arms. There is no way we will pick up arms to fight these people. We believe in our military, we believe in our security service, and we believe in our police. And the government has to take that decision to take on those people, and we support them completely. So it's not going to be a civil war, because the majority of the supporters, they are not going to pick up arms. They will pick up arms only in one point: if there is a military intervention from outside. The Syrian army is 400,000, it will be turned to 4 million people. There's no question about that, because Syria is always had the sanctions. The West didn't do favor to Syria. Syria has been under sanctions for the last 30 years. Syria has been put under hardship for the last 30 years, only because of Syria's stance in the Middle East, only because of Israel.
Thank you very much for giving that very different perspective on what's going on in Syria.
Thank you.